Hi, I'm Joe,
And I'm Dave.
and we're the hosts of the Chasing Tomorrow podcast, where we bring you stories that delve into the science and spirit behind intriguing people doing extraordinary things. Performance Tea has been supporting the Chasing Tomorrow podcast since day one, and they've released a new electrolyte and adaptogen-powered sport mix called Endurance. The lemonade and iced tea flavor are delightful, and it's 70 calories per scoop. The blend is easy on the gut. You can check it out at performancetea.com, and they have given us a discount code for any of our listeners to get 20% off their purchase. Just use Chasing20 at checkout.
Welcome to the Chasing Tomorrow podcast. This week it's episode 72. This week we have the new backyard world record holder, Harvey Lewis. Harvey, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, ended up running 85 mind-numbing, knee-aching, jaw-dropping yards at Big's Backyard Ultra down in Bell Buckle, Tennessee, beating Chris Roberts, who ended up getting the world's longest assist last week's episode. I recommend everybody going and listening to it. This week, we're going to talk to world record holder Harvey Lewis. Now, Harvey, if you want to find out a little bit more about him, we're going to jump right into the Big's Backyard. If you ever want to find out a little bit more about him, go back to episode number 19. Listen about where this guy came from, and just really ultimately this guy's humble nature and his mindset. His mindset is perfect for this. If you want to do something like this, more like Harvey Lewis. So without further ado, welcome to the Chasing Tomorrow podcast, Harvey. How's the recovery coming?
Oh, thanks, fellas. I really appreciate it. And, it's kind of funny because I know some of us are still dreaming about the race,
Mm-hmm.
but it's been coming very well.
Great.
Yeah, you're, I mean, we should just jump into lots of other stuff, but you actually ran a marathon this morning. So I think people would probably feel like, oh man, you would have been taking it easy, but I guess you're just back at it.
Yeah, well, it was like a more relaxed like pace, which was nice. I had like pre-planned this, so I knew like that I was planning to go very far in Bigs. And so I like already settled on the 4:45 pace group. And normally I pace probably like the 3:05 or 3:15 or maybe like 3:25. So it was just a really nice like community event because Cincinnati has a great Flying Pig marathon. We have a great community. Mm-hmm. And this is our first race since COVID with the pig. So the community is just like really excited to get back into it. And my little reference on the dreaming was because Laz just posted a couple of days ago that he's still waking up in the middle of the night and thinking that he forgot to blow the whistle. And my friend Judd, who was my crew chief, messaged me yesterday, and he said he keeps waking up thinking that he like overslept and forgot to get me the items for crewing. And I haven't had I've had a few good nights of really nice sleep. I have woken up a few times. Actually, like I'll be sleeping. I'll think I'm still out there running back and forth. And I'll kind of shift sides on the bed when I think I'm doing the trail or I'm doing the road. So it's like I kind of shift the places in the bed. So that's pretty funny. Like the first, I say a week or 10 days after that, I would continue to dream that I was still running. And I know my fiance was getting tired of me moving around the bed so much.
And so would you call that a dream or would you call that a nightmare, Harvey?
Oh, no. There's no nightmare happening, man. That's a real, yeah, there's so many nice things about that whole journey. I definitely, maybe we'll like, it always does kind of happen around Halloween. So we may get the Haunted Woods back eventually, like the next couple of years, but they always have like a theme adventure thing going on down there. But yeah, no, it's that race was just something like really special and all the characters in it.
Yeah, so Harvey, it all came together for you on the day. And let's start from the beginning. 7 o'clock in the morning, you're in Laz's and Sandra's backyard getting ready. How were your nerves going into the day? I mean, you end up having the assist last year with Courtney. So I think it was 67 hours, I believe.
Yeah, I think yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and so yeah. Tell me about your feelings and your nerves going into the day, the morning of and the day before. How are you feeling going in?
Well, I was really excited. I know like my big A races this year were the Ohio Backyard, Badwater, and Biggs. And so I was really just amped up for it. I know like I had a little bit challenged of, like the few nights before the race sleeping. I mean, I did get like at least 6 hours of sleep, but because I've been training, and then you take that taper, you got all that extra energy that's just boiling over, and so my energy was really high, but I was in a nice mood. I mean, I have a really great crew chief. My crew chief Judd is one of my very good close friends, and yeah, it's like Comedy Central. I mean, he's always filled with all kinds of great humor. So I mean, in that environment, plus there was amazing food there I brought along. I mean, it looked like we had moved in, so I was pretty stoked just to be there and observing what's happening, like seeing the international runners, seeing Laz and his moment. Like it's great seeing his enthusiasm with the setup and all the flags, and it's just a really nice time of the year too, with the edge of fall and the colors just starting to hit with the leaves. So it was really nice being down there.
So, as another crew member down there with Dave, and we talked to Chris last week, and you think a little bit about, so this thing goes over multiple days, and with the night and the day course, you got this shift that happens, and we got a little bit lucky in that the night before it started, it poured like crazy, but then it stopped raining, which, who knows what would have happened had that been happening during the race. But tell us a little bit about like day one. I mean, it's not like this is a couple hour thing and we're going to run hard. You have to sort of like think about, okay, I'm out on the day course, I hit to the night course, come back. I mean, was it like feeling as good as you wanted to? Were you eating well, resting? What was the strategy day one?
Yeah, I mean, well, first the weather. Yeah, I mean, we really like got like ideal conditions. It was like we were taking a trip down to the Bahamas with only cool skies. So I mean, I was really appreciating like the nice calm weather. The first year I ran bigs in 2017, and I had no idea what I was doing down there. Guillaume and we got this crazy torrential rain the second night that was like coming at us in sheets. Like it was crazy. And we didn't have like that much rain gear. I remember I couldn't even see which direction I was going exactly on the road. I just have to follow the line. So, that the idea of having like the calm weather was really, really nice. So yeah, I just like day one, I just really, ate all the food I could, like eat all plant-based foods. And I had like really just, I mean, I looked like an incredible, I looked like I was geared up for about a month in Tennessee in terms of my food selection. So, I mean, I remember I was eating these Abe's muffins. I was eating like just fruit, like dried fruit. I was drinking like all kinds of great drinks. I had like this organic chocolate banana almond like drink from Costco. I mean, I had like all my favorites. So, I mean, it was like a party. And it was just an interesting environment because every year this kind of evolves a little bit. So we had the big tents versus having all individually staged smaller tents. And so being in the big tent, it looked like a bit of a circus tent. And then you had like each runner was kind of poised like 5 feet, next to each other, spread out by 5 feet. And I think they even had like little tombstones for us with our names on it. so I mean, I just kind of laughed at the things and just didn't take anything too seriously. I just enjoyed like the moment and just the story of it.
Yeah, and so Harvey, you look like from the very beginning, you went out, Laz rang the bell, and every hour you went out very, very conservatively. I remember every loop, I went out and I ran. In fact, in comparison to when I ran that race 2 years ago, I ran, the daytime loops 2 to 3 minutes slower than what I ran, 2 years ago. Yet every single hour I found myself coming through first, in front of everybody else. And I remember Laz ended up pulling me aside after the first hour, and he put his arm over me and he said, let me tell you about the story about the guy, or that guy who came in faster than anybody else. He never wins the race. And he said, don't be that guy, Dave. And so the next hour comes by, Harvey, and And I come through and faster than anybody else. And he says, "Hey, everybody, look, it's that guy." And it became the funny thing that everybody was talking about. And I'm thinking, I'm feeling comfortable. I'm feeling like I'm running slowly, but you know what? I look back at you and Courtney DeWalter and everybody else, and you guys are fast runners, but yet you're running a lot slower. Were you intentionally pulling the pace back that much? Do you feel like it paid dividends later?
So did he say that to you this year or?
Oh yeah, yeah.
He
And
said
he said
that,
it to
he
me for
told
about
you I
12 or
was calling
14
you that
hours straight.
guy.
Oh yeah. I'm that
Well,
guy.
that's just a
So that was
character.
it. He's like, "Hey, it's that guy, right?"
That is something else. Oh,
Yeah.
he is something. He's a character.
Oh, he's
But
awesome.
he certainly loves to like mess with us, a little bit.
does.
So, I can't really speak for everyone because, we all have different like paces that feel comfortable. For example, today I paced the 4:45 group, which, like in looking at that, that's like, wow, that's a really, a slower time than I would normally run. But to be honest with you, I felt probably more tired running a 4:45 time than I would if I ran like a 3:15 or 3:25 time, just because my stride is different. So my stride is much more, it's just slowed down. It's maybe a little, I do something strange. I like shorten it a little bit. It's so, we're not all programmed to run the exact same speed, but finding that equilibrium point, like finding the place that is that sweet spot is the important part of the route. And, so for me, I think one of my strengths is pacing, and I go off of like how I feel. I don't have any heart rate monitor or anything like that, but I just know my I probably know the heart rate like based on like just what feels right to me. But I wouldn't say that my mode is like the mode for everybody. And I think some of our European friends across the pond, like they I know like the Carl Sable, they had made a big point for how they had run, faster loops last year and how that really helped them. So I think that, there was like a couple of trains of thought, like some people are thinking, oh, maybe I should run faster loops and then I can like bank more sleeping time, or maybe I should run like a little more conservative. And so I mean, I don't know. I think it's hard to emulate exactly. You kind of have to find the correct balance for yourself. But that being said, person that usually is winning every loop on the first day is usually the person that is not going to be even in the final 3 or 5.
Exactly.
Yeah, and typical. I mean, you're a different Absolutely. Caliber. You've got
no.
Experience.
But it's true. Like what I was doing on the course was I was running my pace that I thought was comfortable. But yet, when you get done these races, you have to look at yourself like seriously in the mirror and go, okay, what was that? Was that ego? What was motivating you to be out there at that pace doing what you were doing? And so, even though you think you're slowing down enough, you probably could even slow down even further. I know, Harvey, you're a fast marathoner. So, I mean, when it comes to, during the first 12 hours, during that first daytime loop, what were you running? What were your typical loops? Were they 52 minutes, 54 minutes?
Yeah, I think they were somewhere in that range, Yeah. But again, like I just was doing what felt good to me. So, like what's good for me is not like necessarily, I could play different. I'll put it this way. I could play different plays, like I have different plays in the playbook. So that was one day's playbook, but I may come back in 2 years and do something entirely different just to mess with people. So it's like there's so much of that game. It's like a game of chess. So I mean, like if you look at my times they vary like day to day too. So it's there's so many different dynamics, which makes this race style pretty exciting. Is you can like do so many different things, and different things can work, which is kind of fun too.
So your day one, for our listeners, didn't have a lot of dropouts. It was pretty strong. A few right in the beginning. Some got lost. Someone hurt their ankle, but for the most part, the crew was there through day one. So everyone, I'd say there were a few who looked like they were struggling a little not pick on anyone, but they might go. And so it was really just a settling in day, I imagine, right? You're feeling pretty good. Are you napping at all during the night when you're back day one?
Yeah, I mean, I did like nap at nighttime for sure.
Mm.
And that was nice. Like it was really nice. So, but it's kind of incredible. Like I think we unfortunately one of the runners, she got lost. That was really really
Mhm.
disappointing because she made the trip there and we all felt really bad about it. It's one thing I thought about too, because I'm like, just one little like slip up and
Mhm.
mistake. Another runner, he had like the bell had rang, and then he went over and he picked up like a phone or something from his camp, and then he was out. And like that, it's so unfortunate because you could see how people would make that mistake when you're like
Mhm.
you're tired or you're enthusiastic. And so, I mean, I was always trying to concentrate on just not making a mistake like that because it could totally happen,
Mhm.
So that was always a big thing. But yeah, the sleep is different. Like the first year we did this, I think we were just all sitting up in chairs and like kind of still talking and chit chatting. And even Guillaume and I, like on day or night two, we were just kind of like we had that crazy rain, but neither of us were like laying down. We were just kind of like sitting there looking at each other, like down in food and this and that. So the race has evolved, and I mean, I wouldn't be surprised in 2 years if the first 24 hours, no one drops out. Like
Mhm.
it's very possible, like everyone stays in for 24 hours, which is kind of cool. But it also pushes the race even deeper.
Yeah, it sure does. And so Harvey, let's talk a bit about that because yeah, I remember the lady who ran off course, and she came back and she looked pretty upset. The fellow from I think it was from South America or South Africa. Was it South
Yeah,
Africa?
he's from Ecuador.
Ecuador, yeah,
Andres,
yeah. But
Andres.
he circled back, and that was heartbreaking because
Yeah, yeah,
all one little mistake. And I thought about that too on the course because there were times where I was drifting. You're running, and you're mentally drifting, and you're daydreaming, and you're in a flow state. You keep thinking, oh, okay, no, 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 no. Like, you don't lose focus as well too. Running
yeah,
through that kind of that rocky canyony area. I
yeah.
remember the one time I tripped and fell in there, and Courtney was right behind me, and right square into a rock, and you're thinking, don't, there are times that you don't want to fall, and you don't fall right.
Yeah, I
Was
may
there
have
any
fell on
time?
that same rock, man. I think
Oh yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah, yeah. We're
maybe
gonna
where I broke my fourth metacarpal.
so we're gonna get to that the further that we
Yeah.
talk about this race because I definitely want to get to the broken hand. But was there any one time where you were really worried about losing focus, running off course, making that one right turn on the road instead of the left turn? Was there any one time where you felt you were compromised?
Well, I never had a concern about the actual turns on the course. Fortunately, I don't know. We really got like that drilled into our mind, so
Mm-hmm.
that was not a problem. But I definitely was always aware that like all it would take. I mean, the first day, honestly, I fell like 3 times, and I felt
Mm-hmm.
like I felt the most simple places, like where there were no
Yeah.
obstacles. It was just smooth sailing, and
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of look over and like look at some tree or something, or I would be I'd be talking to someone and my mind would kind of like leave the spot for a minute, and all of a sudden I'd just like be falling, and I'd be rolling with it. Like I didn't have any issue because I was physically feeling strong and I was able to roll, land fine, no problem. And where it was like a little more technical, I wasn't like my mind wasn't like drifting like that. But that made me just double down on like, yeah, you gotta be so careful because if you have one
Mm-hmm.
fall like that and you hit your knee or you can totally throw yourself off permanently for the race. And so that's the challenge of the race because it's like you really even on the road. I actually fell once on the road. I think the first, or no, it was the second
Wow.
night. Like I hit like a little like I don't know. I was like, "Where's that hole?" I didn't even see a hole. Like I hit some
I
like
don't
hole,
think there was a
and I
hole, Harvey. You
literally
might be
tripped.
making that up.
And, yeah, I was running with Steve Slavy, and I was like, I rolled. I was like, keep going, you got this. But and then I didn't fall again. Like I don't think I fell again on the daytime on the
Yeah.
second day or the third day. it wasn't until the fourth day I fell again. I like broke my hand. But that's, yeah, so I definitely knew that, it's part of the race. You can't like entirely zone out. Like you can zone out a little bit on the road, but you really have to always be conscious of where you are on the trail. And it's very interesting in this backyard ultra format because, like Biggs is a more difficult course than a lot of the backyards out there, but not saying it's the toughest. I mean, there's some really crazy courses that people come up with 1,000 feet of climbing per hour, or really technical things. But Biggs is not just like a grassy plain, where you could just like run blindfolded. It's like there's an element of challenge. So I mean, like it creates its element that you have to be real mindful.
Yeah, so that's the hard thing, balancing that with the physical stress and the mental stress. And so day one, sort of everything's established, you're feeling pretty good. You get into day two, now you sort of say, I'm going to be here for a while, right? That's sort of the attitude. We always know that the minute someone might say, oh, I'm not feeling good, I don't know if I can make it, then the race is sort of over. So day two felt good. Did you start to get stronger as you went on, or was it just sort of maintaining the rhythm you had developed at that point?
Yeah, I guess, it's like you do go through waxes and wanes, and you go through, a little bit highs and lows still, no matter what. But I think you also can kind of settle into where you are, and you get sort of like hungry. You get sort of I think there's like a competitiveness to it too. So it's like that competitiveness with each other and pushing each other. It makes it a fun game, to go at. So I would say, the second day I felt pretty strong.
So Harvey, the second day is interesting because I was busy looking around as well too. And it's interesting because on day two, it gets real, right? You're 24, 28, 32 hours in. I don't care who you are. If you've been running 100 miles, you're getting tired. You've had a low by then. You've run through the night, and that night is a bit tough. You're running into this, dark abyss of a road, and it's easy to mentally, it's easy to start feeling pretty bad for yourself. It's easy to start looking for exit doors, right? They become present. That blister becomes bigger. Hunger, the food issue, whatever happens. Day two, you're 24, you're 32 hours in. When did you have your first low, and how did you get out of it?
Yeah, so I remember pretty distinctly that the second night I did have like a low, and probably I was experiencing what you were talking about just right there. And just that's where it's really helpful to have a real powerful crew chief. So, I mean, I'm not one to rely too heavily on my crew. Like, in fact, I pretty much know exactly what I want to eat and what I need. So I'll tell my crew members, like, next loop, I could use this, or next loop, I could use that. And I pretty much like direct, versus I know some runners, they can't let their crew direct them. But, my crew chief, Judd, and I, we're pretty strong connected. We actually met at the Marathon des Sables in Morocco. We met back there in 2016, and then he crewed for me in Badwater this year when we were able to pull off a victory there, which was pretty amazing. And so just sharing with him that I was, going through a little bit of a low, was powerful, because I didn't have to experience that entirely solo. And, and he's the only other person that knew. So, it's sometimes a crew member, they can give you a couple positive words that can help you to reorient your mind to the right direction.
Yeah, so give us a little hint of what some of those powerful words were. And again, I heard some rumors about, something about me commuting to work. All you need to do is commute to work.
Yeah. So
your
that's
run
what
commute is
Judd
like 4 miles,
said.
right?
Judd reminded me that, hey man, run out to the nighttime course, just like running to work. So I was able to like do that. So I was able to program my mind And just, I was like, yeah, that makes a total sense to me. Like, I just run to work. That's something I do automatic, and it's very easy for me to just run to work. You just go boom, 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 go to work, come on back. So that works very well.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I think we all know that sort of run from one tree to another, or whatever we can do to micro goal ourselves through. You have a lot of these laps to do. Of course, we should have asked when we started, did you have a sense of how many laps you think would have won this year before you started? Were you?
Well, I really didn't know. I mean, I imagined it would be, I really imagined we would definitely break through that 300-mile threshold, which
Yeah.
we have been pushing on for quite some years now. And, so I thought that would occur.
Yeah. And so then, I mean, of course, you're certainly with this year, it's interesting, because Badwater, pretty big effort. You came into Biggs feeling good and strong with that win. So day 2 is now pretty much done. Now you're going into day 3. It's interesting, I think Dave physically could have kept going, but he had this moment that night where he just sort of almost, like I always tell people to experience, you're driving at night, you're going too far and you just want to fall asleep. And you just sometimes you can pull yourself out of it, and sometimes you got to just pull your car over because you can't win it. And you never know which one's going to happen. And this
Right.
just won, but he made it through that hour. Then the physical thing was still good. It was just the system saying shut down for a little while.
Yes.
And so you get into now day 3, and we did talk to Chris, and Chris, who ends up being your partner for a long time, he's starting to struggle. His knee is like blowing up on him, and he keeps going. How is this sort of evolving with the two of you at this, as well, it was the 3 and then the 2, but as it started to shrink, how were you feeling about your prospects and, hey, I'm here, I'm better than everyone, or, I got to really put an effort in. What was it feeling like?
Well, I mean, there's no guarantees in the backyard, that's for sure. So you have to protect every moment, and you have to be very aware of everything. But I was, my plan from the beginning was to be the final person. So, I believed I was going to do that. And, I really didn't know who was going to be the final people with me, but I was going to be the final person. So it really didn't matter who that was, because I was going to keep running until everyone else stopped. So, but I was pretty enthusiastic to have the Japanese runner. I thought that, he's a very strong-willed personality. And from what I observed of him, the 12 hours leading up to us being the final 3. And then Chris was a definite surprise in the sense of just how incredibly he worked through just things that would have made 98% of 99% of people stop that are strong runners. So, I mean, the third night, I pretty much thought that we had him knocked out at least twice on loops where, he was just barely making it back. But when he go back out, I mean, I just thought, okay, it's going to be Maury and I, Chris is not going to make this. He's just hanging on by threads. And it would really impress me because he'd be skipping sideways, through that loop, because he couldn't run normal ways. So he'd actually be running sideways, skipping. I mean, I was just man, that is just amazing, Chris. I'm so, that just I was so impressed by that. I was I've never seen anyone do that before. They're just so tenacious. They're not gonna give up, even if they have to skip sideways through the damn night. That was pretty cool. And we got to the daytime, and I told Laz, I said, I don't think these 2 guys are going to quit. I mean, I think that, all 3 of us have pretty much decided we're not going to submit. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't think anyone's quitting here. It's not going to be good. But that was impressive of Chris, and also the Japanese run. They both ran some really strong races, and it was really incredible to be a part of that.
So was there any one time when you were looking at Chris, when you were looking at Maury, and you thought, no, I just don't know if I could beat these guys. And you started feeling defeat. Or were you able to at all times feel, you know what, I probably look equally as bad as they do. I'm not going to quit. I'm going to show up at the start line every hour, and I'm going to be finishing that lap. You always have a full belief in yourself that you were going to be the last person standing. Or did you ever feel any one time that I don't know if I could beat these two?
Well, there's always in the human spirit, there's always a little bit of like, you always wonder, like, that dream you have, if it's, if it is possible, or, you always know that I could knock myself out by making a mistake. So I was always sensitive that I could blow it with a mistake. I could blow it. So, I was cognizant that there was for sure no guarantees. Like, it's a backyard ultra. There is no guarantees in the backyard ultra. But on the other hand, I also always felt like that I would outlast both of anyone else that was there. Just this time, I was like, that's where I was. I just felt like I was gonna outlast them. But again, that was it's so delicate, because it could be a mistake that you make, and it could cost you the race, and that you can't control once that happens. So there's no guarantees in the backyard ultra.
Right.
No guarantees.
Dave always says to me, it's going good until it isn't. And
Right.
And you don't have any, the difference, like even if you were going to go, I don't know, let's say you wanted to do the Tahoe 200 and you had a bad hour, bad 3 hours, you can, crank it back up again. Here, there's no tolerance. I was actually surprised at how many people were like running to the start line with 20 seconds to go, just making it, like, not because they were uncapable, they just were underestimating how fast the clock goes in those last 3 minutes, or just sort of lackadaisical. So you're right, there is no margin for error. I mean, it's literally once that third whistle blows, you're done if you're not there. So staying, sort of very aware. That's another level of, right? So you got all this nutrition issue to deal with. You got some sleep issue to deal with. You got the physical thing to deal with. And then you have this format to deal with. And they are compounding. And of course, you have all the people. So it's like certainly a crazy combination of risk factors that are hard to sort of manage through. So you have a great crew. You're eating well for 3 days. You're feeling strong. Look, clearly you set out to go win this. And, your competitors are putting in the effort which you would expect. And you blow through the 67. So you're now in, new territory going along. You guys break through the 81, which John Stalker, set just recently, right? I mean, and now it's like, okay, I guess we're going to be here for a while. But then, you get closer to that last loop. Was there any indication in your head that Chris was just not going to stop at some point? Were you letting that creep in, or you just like, I'm going and this is all?
No, like something happened that third night, and we said, like, I don't want to use profanity here, but man, I was like, fuck that shit. We're gonna go.
Perfect.
No, it's over with. Now this is just gonna go on forever, man. And I don't care however long it's gonna go. It's just gonna keep on going until everyone's quit. So it was like a switch. But like what Chris was able to do, which was so remarkable, is that fourth day on the trail, he was just strong. Like that knee thing that he had going on, it looked like he didn't have any issue whatsoever. So he did a great job of acting, if that's what it was. He ran with a good stride. He looked fantastic on the trail. And so at that point, I thought, sometimes it does happen that people do kind of fix themselves in the midst of the race. And I pretty much thought the issue that he had on the second night or third night, I pretty much forgot about that, because he looked so strong on the daytime loop. And then also the Japanese runner and I, we were pretty much going at it with each other. So I think Chris was just holding back, and he was just thinking, man, Harvey and the Japanese runner, they're going to destroy themselves. And this is perfect for me, because I'm not doing this crazy sprinting up the hill, running through the gates, and like running around the woods, yelling and hollering and stuff like that. So I think he at least put himself, he was in a good position because we did expend a lot more energy there. You know, I kind of looked at Chris as being weakened from like the third night, and he wasn't as much on my radar. I knew he was there and I was impressed by that. But the Japanese runner and I, we were really kind of, you know, going at it. We respect each other, but we were going at it with each other more that day. And we used a lot more energy doing that than we necessarily needed to. But you know, it's like you get to a point where sometimes you're racing with somebody, the person that's with you at the end, and sometimes you're racing against that person. And sometimes you want to go like to the next furthest possible distance, and sometimes you're trying to knock each other out. So there's some different things happening. Yeah, and it's not always the same at every backyard ultra. There's different chemistry that occurs between the final runners. You know, like the other backyard ultras I've done, I've always had a little more chemistry with the runners at the end. And that's not saying anything negative about Chris or the Japanese runner, but they were just more introverted, and you know, they weren't like really interacting as much on the course as I have in the past with other runners. Like Guillaume and I, we were just chit-chatting a bunch and like joking with each other. You know, it's like I had an adopted brother. Courtney, you know, Courtney is like the sweetest person on the planet. And, you know, running with her is like running with like the motivation machine. You know, so she's not like only motivating herself, but she's giving positive motivation to the person she's, you know, running with. And so, you know, that was phenomenal. But Chris and the Japanese runner, I'd be at the start line with them. And I'm like, all right, guys, let's get it. And they both kind of like be just like in their own phase, which is fine. But I don't, you know, it's funny because we didn't have and then all of a sudden the Japanese runner out, we all of a sudden like get into like a sprint up the hill. Like who the heck is run? We were run up the hill the first day. We run up the hill the fourth day. So
yeah,
you know,
not like, showing any weakness, right?
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Oh yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that. When Maury dropped out, I believe it was on the 81st hour. Now you and Chris exited the corral. And he only showed up, what was it, 15 seconds later or 30 seconds later?
I'm not really sure. I know it was very close. I mean, it had to be like less than a minute. That you know, it was probably more than 15 seconds, but maybe less than a minute. So maybe 30 or so seconds.
Yeah. Now everybody who was watching the live feed, and there were a lot of people watching at that time, they said that was the most emotional moment of the entire race because he kind of collapsed into a crouch, and he was very, very emotionally, you know, hurt, disappointed. Who knows? A warrior like him, you and him were battling back and forth. That would have been an incredibly terrible feeling to know that you couldn't continue when you were that close. You know, if you were listening right now, do you have any messages kind of for him? Do you want to race that guy again, or is this a guy that you don't want to see at a race again because this guy is tough as nails?
Well, he is tough as nails, honestly, but I only have deep respect for him. I have like, I hope that he knows that, and I plan to reach out to him still, but I hope he knows that, and that, you know, I think that what he did was phenomenal. And it could have happened to any three of us, even though we were all like really dedicated to finish and continue running. So I just don't think you can be disappointed with yourself when you give 100% effort like that. It's like that's the last thing on the planet. You can't be disappointed. If you give 100% effort, you can only give your best effort. And if your best effort doesn't carry you that day, that's okay. You know, I was the assist in bigs, you know, twice before this. And so I know that feeling, but yeah, he did have like a very, very strong, almost like you said, almost like a warrior like mentality that he did not want to submit like on his life. So, you know, he seemed to like, I saw some of the pictures. It seemed like after he went through that moment of like feeling the emotions of like sadness of not making it, then it seemed like a few minutes later he did light up, and he, you know, had a good embrace with Laz. And I think that there was a switch there. So I think he made it, you know, through that moment. And I know like from the people that like, it's pretty neat, like at the community, like the little city we create, because I know like the other runners were helping him and Chris. And like they said that he was very gracious and thankful for the help that he received when he was running. And his wife was there, and I know she was fantastic. Like I enjoyed seeing her positive encouragement. And the other Japanese runner, I think he was maybe knocked out like sixth, like he was like the sixth runner to go out at the end. And he was another really just soft-spoken, very pleasant, honorable person to run with. So, you know, I know that, you know, Maury and I, we kind of took it to a next level on that fourth day with like the sprints and the hollering and all the other jazz. But I think that's just like kind of the color of the backyard ultra, you know. It's like it was just kind of I was looking at it as like, you know, the enthusiasm of running together. So I mean, I looked at it like we were just, you know, kind of breaking through barriers, and it was exciting to be on the fourth day and feel like that euphoric high, to just want to like tear off. So I mean, it wasn't the smartest thing always at times. There were times where, see, unfortunately, we had the you know, language barrier. And there were times where I saw Maury just, you know, he just was like barreling down the hill in the trail, like through the rocky area. And I'm like thinking to myself, that's probably not the best place to do that. Like on day 4, we did it on the pavement, we did it through the rocky area, but here's probably a good spot to like just kind of slow it down a little bit, you know, get a little bit of a mo. But yeah, so I do kind of like the collaboration in the backyard ultra. Like I really like what I have with Guillaume and also Courtney. And I like that energy that creates. Yeah, I don't know if I really like this real high pressure, you know, super intense, you know, more contentious battle at the end. I mean, we played it, but I don't know. I think you got both worlds. You have, but it's I've had different experiences with the backyard ultra. It's kind of interesting. I'm curious other people, you know, how that plays out for them. You know, Dave, have you had like in Canada, you had a backyard ultra where you were the finalist?
No, I haven't. No, the best I've done was third at Biggs 2 years ago. So
okay,
yeah, no, it's neat the feelings that you end up having with the other runners and the amount of time that you spend. It's funny that you bring up Chris. You know, Chris is quite a you know, like an inside type character, because I found that the most chatty person on the course was Chris. And Chris and I ran a lot of day 2 together because for whatever reason, he started bringing up his family and his kids and his wife and his career, and you know, we started talking.
Yeah, I didn't hear any of that. So I mean, I think it's interesting. Like, see, people might change day to day. So what you get in day 1 is different than day 2 versus day 3 and day 4. You know, it's like totally different, like personalities.
Yeah, no doubt. And we had these all. You know, I found that you end up creating these different relationships with different individuals at different times for different reasons, and you end up running in the same pod with a couple people, and you know, you feel like you're always running behind them and you trust their foot placement, and then somebody else is talking about whatever. I found Maury, he and I were running often together, and he was always eager to pass me on the trail, especially on the climbs, and I found he was flexing a little bit early, and that's his personality, and that goes along with what you were saying about the warrior personality and what you guys were doing on day 4, which makes all the sense in the world. So yeah, that's what's neat about these backyard races. It's full of times of you know, contemplation out there and being conservative and then being aggressive, at times flexing, at other times just not. So let's talk a little bit, Harvey, about your broken hand. When did that happen and what did that look like?
Yeah, so in thinking back, it was like I believe the somewhere around like the 80th loop. And what had happened was I think those daytime, shenanigans with Maury and I, like sprinting all around the place and making all the extra hollering and stuff. And already in the fourth day, yeah, I was down on energy, and I also it wasn't like super hot, but once you've been running for 4 days, as you know, like your body has a harder time adjusting to the differentials in the temperature, whether it be a little heat and sun in the daytime or the chill and cold at nighttime. So I got a little dehydrated on the fourth day, and my energy was like it is like all energy was to forward throttle, and like there was nothing else for anything. So I had gotten to a point where those last like few loops on the trail, I was making it by like 4.5 minutes or something like that, which seems like very minimal. Like once when you've been, getting through it in a couple more minutes faster than that previous days. And so I like was just going up the hill. I think it's about 3/4 the way through that loop. And there's like a rocky section. And I literally just fell down forward. And like when I landed, I totally hit my hand, and then my body went all that energy right into that one point. And it's like I had zero energy to like roll or like do like a little bit of a push up down, just anything to kind of like differentiate that energy. So it all went on the hand. And I knew like right away that I had done something to my hand, but I didn't know what it was. I knew it wasn't just likely bruised. I kind of hit my knee a little bit, but it wasn't much. The knee was like 3-4%. So it was very minimal. And so I just checked my knee, and I was like, my spirit animal for this race was a honey badger. So honey badger falls down, breaks the hand. It doesn't matter. Honey badger gets up, keeps on running. That's how it is. Yeah. So that's all I thought. Like your hand's not really that important, like for running. You don't really need it. You just have one hand. You can get your drink with one hand. That's not a big deal. You can still like use your hand for like motion. So it just kept on going, and I got to the crew tent. I didn't even say anything to my crew, or I don't even think I said anything to anyone. I just kept on moving.
Yeah. Wow. The honey badger doesn't give a crap,
Yeah, whatever. Like it's you're there until you're not running anymore. So that wouldn't be a reason, right? Because you're right, it didn't affect your running. But certainly that stress, maybe if you're up in the 90s, it might have added up later on. But
no, it wouldn't have.
No.
There
you go. All right.
No, it's just a hand. You don't need a hand.
You don't run with your hand.
It's like I'm not going to stop the race over a hand.
You can cut your hand off then.
Seriously, no, man.
Take care of it.
Since that happened, I've not had one single painkiller. Like not Tylenol, not Advil, nothing. Like zero. Like I mean, I went home the next day. I got home at like 11 o'clock at night. I went out, ran my mile. And then my student teacher, his fiance is an ER doctor, and she suggests I go to ER. So I went at like about 12 midnight, and then I like did the X-ray and fourth metacarpal. But it was a nice clean break, so it didn't need anything special. Just I had like a little makeshift, like kind of, it's not like a cast, but like the next thing from it. And then now I've got, as of a few days ago, like this little brace. So it really, the hand's not that important.
So you're you got 84 done. Chris is still there. When you go out on 85, you don't know that he's stopping, right?
I had no idea. No, I really didn't. I thought he just seemed so strong, man. I thought we were going to be running all night long.
So then, you're running, you're in front. When did it dawn on you that this was it, the last loop? Was it till you've crossed the finish line, or was there any other part in the middle where you got this sense of something happened with Chris?
Well, the 12th hour of the fourth day, we had a interesting setup because we had 11 hours on the trail and then 13 hours on the road. So the 12th hour, when we finally moved to the road, you got mostly in the daylight. And I started off with a major lead. Like I got to the midpoint. It seemed like maybe 4 or 5 minutes, maybe 4 minutes ahead of Chris.
It's a lot.
But it was a lot. And I was like, well, geez, man, like I had no idea what was going on. But when I came back, I got to like the 3 mile mark and he passed me like at that point. So he went from like being like back, it seemed like about half a mile or at least a third of a mile, to like passing me by mile 4. And so at that point, I just figure like, well, he's going pretty strong, because I saw him run all day on the 4th day, and he just ran. And when he ran past me, I said, well, it looks like we're going to be out here for a long time tonight. So I was like, really, man, he's going. So then the next loop, I went out, and when I got out there, I didn't think anything of it, because, this is the same thing he did the previous loop. And when I went back, then I sort of like, then you start to wonder and suspect. But at that point, you've also been running for 4 days. So you wonder, maybe you made a mistake, or maybe, it's like, you always have to be like very conscientious of what's happening. So yeah, I had some inclination by like the final hill climb that this might be it. But then again, it's like the backyard ultra, it never ends. So you just feel like it's never gonna end. It's never gonna end. So you just keep on moving. And it was nice to see everyone at the finish, seeing a whole collection of people and the energy. That was real nice. So it was definitely a surreal experience to have a dream, like, going after Badwater, going after Ohio Backyard, and then Biggs. And it was one of the most incredible life experiences, as well as running experiences, to have that culminate. The other special thing about this backyard ultra was just that having it live, like that's really unique for ultras, to have like a quality live feed. I've done the Desert Solstice before, where we have like a live feed, on the 24-hour race. But I don't think people tune into that at the same level of interest, because you kind of tune in and you see like, okay, people are running at that pace. You tune in 2 hours later, maybe someone's altered their pace, but a whole lot in the race doesn't change that greatly. But with the backyard ultra, like, it's like, you never know what's going to happen. There's no guarantees in the backyard ultra. Anything could happen. So people were really drawn in. And like, even this weekend when I was running the Flying Pig Marathon weekend, I did the 5K yesterday with my 99-year young friend, 99.7-year young friend, Mike Fremont. And I can't tell you the number of people that came up to me yesterday and today and said, oh my God, we were watching the live feed. I was waking up at 2:00 in the morning and, doing this, or I was at work and I was following. I mean, all these people, I had probably at least 24 people, 36 people tell me that. Just people that, a lot of them I didn't know, that just were like following the race. And that's only Cincinnati. So, you got all across the globe, all these different runners from different like continents and countries. And that's what's, so remarkable about this sport. It really, draws people in. And it's kind of neat, because anyone could win. Like, you don't have to be the fastest runner. You don't have to be the strongest runner. You don't have to be like many things, but you can win by putting a strong strategy together in other dimensions.
Yeah, and so being relentless, right? Absolutely, Harvey. And you can't discount as well too just how many people you motivated by trying, by working as hard as you did, and by not quitting. Think about the marathon today that you ran, and how many people were succeeded and ran the race they ultimately wanted and really exceeded expectations. Because if Harvey could do it, if Harvey could run over 350 miles, I could get through these 26.2 miles. You motivate people along the way. So tell me a little bit more about that finish line. So you crossed the finish line after completing your 85th hour, and Sandra tells you don't need to go back out again, and you don't need to. You can sit and you can sleep and you could eat all the vegan burgers and all the food that you want to. And
that vegan food was good.
So how did that feel? How did that feel to know that you did not need to stand up and answer that stupid bell again?
well, I almost felt like doing it. It's like I was really not really finished yet. But honestly, it was so neat to like connect with all the people there who were on the live feed and the people that were like there from the beginning, Laz and Sandra, just everybody. It was so neat to this. It's a wild event. So it's neat to share that experience with everyone. And I remember, I remember like talking to Laz, and one of the first things I wasn't thinking this the whole race. I didn't think this at all, like for weeks, months at all. But one of the first things I said is like, Laz, winning the bigs, it gives me an entry into the Barkley. And he seemed like he was going to backtrack a little bit on that, but he was agreeable. The next day did tell me I will be the sacrificial lamb in the Barkley. So
yeah, I'm not so sure. I would disagree, but but he is the Godfather. He's back.
He is the Godfather. Yeah. So thank you, Dave. But I didn't really want the moment to end, so I wasn't really ready to go anywhere. I enjoyed it. Congratulate Chris. He just an incredible race. He ran such an incredible race. It took a tremendous amount of tenacity to survive with the adversity he had as well. And that was impressive. And then I was just thankful to my crew chief, Judd, who basically he's the best crew chief in the world. I know we all say that, but he comes up with stuff that other people look at our stuff and they start mimicking it. Like, I mean, he comes up with stuff that we see like later on at like Desert Solstice and no one's ever had it before because he's come up with it. So, I mean, he's just got a real creative mind and I love that. And then just the energy, like, I mean, having like Howie Stern, some of the other like photographers and videographers that were there, capturing it just was kind of neat to know that it was being broadcast. Most races we do, you only have like a limited broadband, and the broadband at this race had increased, and that's kind of neat. Like you don't normally get that at ultras. Have that like live feed where people could tune in, and that's kind of neat that you kind of set like a precedent that could grow, and that could be, imagine where that can go in 5 or 10 years. It's like it's already out of control, and imagine where it's got the power to move towards is kind of striking.
No question. Yeah.
And and as we get close to wrapping up and letting you sort of recover a little from your run and everything today, Dave and I talked a lot about this 100 loop kind of mindset, but maybe there isn't really, if we manage this, the question is, what are the variables that would contribute? Of course, you need someone to run 99 with you if you're going to do 100. So 2 people have to be capable. What do you think, Harvey, now that you've sort of pushed it to this level, what do you think is next for Backyard? Is it that people are shooting for 100? Is it, another element of it, or there's, of course, no finish to this thing ever? It just keeps going?
Yeah, it's the way Laz was created. It is there is no finish, right? So the backyards on a course like you have like where the record was set in the UK, I think that they could very easily maybe hit, not easily, but they could definitely hit 100 next summer or something like that, because more people want to go. It attracts more competition. Previous people that have experience that can go further, and there's not, you don't have quite as much like topography and like technical elements to the course for like bigs as well. Like, I mean, there's no limits. It's just that every time a new record is set, it just makes it easier to get to that point because people start to change their mindset about what's possible. So it's like everything is about what your mindset believes is possible. So it certainly is possible. Like some runner, she asked me if it's possible, like when we were running bigs the first day, she said, is it possible that someone can do 500 miles here? And I said, yes. And she's like, no, wait, really? Yes. So yes, it's possible. It absolutely is possible. It is, but there's other elements to it, like the weather, like you said.
Mhm.
I mean, Laz is just he's something quite special person. So I mean,
Mhm.
as long as Laz is there, Laz has that power to conjure up some magic. You know,
Yeah, sure
without
does.
Laz there, it's not going to happen. So I mean,
Mhm.
not in that particular spot.
Yeah.
But so Laz brings some special energy and some metaphysical crap to the being of the beast.
There's no question. I'm really happy that the world record belongs at this point to Big's backyard, the original, backyard course in Laz's backyard. He created some secret sauce, and I think that we all go there and try our best. And Harvey, this year you were the best, and I want to run with you again in a couple of years. But I can't imagine right now, the feeling that you have and coming off of this, and really even thinking about what's next. What you're chasing tomorrow. You alluded a little bit to that earlier about Barkley. I mean, you earned a spot. There are very few spots at Barkley. It's something you don't turn down. I can't imagine you're turning it down, and you're gonna.
No,
Like you
not
alluded to
turning it
before,
down.
you got to go get a compass. But what's next for you? How do you come down off of this cloud
Yeah,
and
definitely.
dream just as big as you've dreamt before?
Right. So I think it's always important. Like a lot of times we feel like some sort of like a down once you've had a big high like that. So it is real important to find some new element that's going to work a new set of skills, which
Mhm.
absolutely works out very well for me because Barkley is a whole nother animal. And where my skills are weakest at the moment are like navigating in
Mhm.
like places where there's no trails. That's so I'm excited about the opportunity to like learn those skills to develop my navigation,
Mhm.
and hopefully I'll make it past loop one. We'll see. Either I may make it past, I may make it, I might not make it past loop one, I might make it past all 5 loops.
Mhm.
Never know. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to throwing my energy into Barkley and giving it my best shot in terms of the puzzle. So that's exciting. And yeah, thank you for all the like very gracious like words you guys had tonight. That was very kind of you.
Mhm.
And it's really, I just feel like a representative of the sport because I'm just one amongst so many others that are really phenomenal athletes that pushed at the bigs. I mean, yourself, you had like
Thank you, Harvey.
Courtney, Maggie. I mean, they're just phenomenal runners. This positive energy, seeing what they did, like they weren't. There was a lap in like day two where they went back to help another runner. They moved back and they actually ran with someone else who they wanted to keep that runner moving and not from dropping out. And like that's so like giving, and I think that's something more powerful in the energy that we draw from with the bigs is like that love and giving element. I think that could actually carry us to further distances than the let's destroy each other.
No
They
question.
both can get us far, but one I think actually will ultimately get us to even further distances.
Well, Harvey, you're a role model on so many levels, and you're gracious in winning is something everyone should listen into because what you did was far beyond what any human can sort of really contemplate. They don't fully understand that, you're just saying, oh yeah, well, I did 85. It was a remarkable mental, physical, emotional, and just overall personal achievement on your part. And so congrats. We're going to keep watching you. And if you keep putting up the stuff like this, we're going to just have to keep talking to you on the podcast, Harvey.
You
So
bet.
Thanks, brother. Oh, it's a pleasure, man. So I love connecting with you both.
all right, we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Harvey.
Definitely.
Congrats.
Thanks so much, you guys.
Dave, I think Harvey is not only one of the best ultra runners in the world, I mean, he's also one of the most gracious people we've had the pleasure to speak with. And can you imagine winning 2 backyards and Badwater all in 1 year? I mean, that's like more like a career of accomplishments. I mean, it'll be fun to see what he can do in 2022. I'm excited to see how he tops this year. Okay, that's a wrap for this week. As always, a big shout out to our sponsor, Performance Tea. You should check out their new Endurance Electrolyte Blend. It's amazing. Half and half, and it just keeps you going. You can find them on performancetea.com, and they've given us a discount code for any of our listeners to get 20% off their purchase. Just use Chasing20 at checkout. And we greatly appreciate if you could follow us on Instagram and give us a review on Apple Podcasts. That would be awesome. As always, a huge thanks to our listeners for coming with us on this journey and chasing tomorrow with us. Thanks.